You know, in the world of AI, it feels like a few giants have been running the show for years, right? So what happens when a new challenger just shows up, seemingly out of nowhere, and starts breaking all the rules? Well, today, we're digging into the story of DeepSeek, an AI that is making some serious waves. We're talking about a startup called DeepSeek. They're based in China, and they have just grabbed the world's attention. And for a really good reason, too. They've pulled off something that honestly seemed almost impossible.
And that really gets us to the big question, doesn't it? How did this relatively new player manage to challenge, and in one really important way, even surpass the company that's been the face of the AI revolution? The answer is pretty fascinating.
So this was the moment everyone sat up and took notice. DeepSeek just swooped in and took OpenAI's top spot for the most downloaded free app on Apple's App Store in the US. I mean, this wasn't just some small victory. It was a huge signal that a major shift was happening. But here's the real kicker. It's not just about being popular. DeepSeek is claiming their model can match or even beat the performance of the industry leaders, all while being about 96% cheaper to run than OpenAI's competing model. No, that's not a typo. 96%. That's not just an improvement. That's a potential game changer.
Okay, so to really get how they're doing this, we need to look at the tech that's making it all happen. The model causing all this buzz is called DeepSeek R1, and that R stands for reasoning. Let's break down what that actually means.
The key difference is this. Unlike a lot of the older AI models that just kind of spit out an answer, a reasoning model tries to replicate a thought process. Before it gives you a response, it takes its time, sometimes a few seconds, sometimes a few minutes, to analyze the problem step by step. It's literally thinking it through.
This whole process is called chain of thought. The best way to think about it is like showing your work on a math test, you know? The AI doesn't just jump to the conclusion. First, it looks at your query. Then it breaks it down into smaller pieces, works through each one, and can even go back and correct itself if it goes down the wrong path. Only then does it give you the final reasoned answer.
And here is one of DeepSeek R1's biggest selling points. It doesn't hide any of this from you. It actually shows you its chain of thought as it's happening. You can watch it break down the problem and work towards the solution in real time. For an industry that's often criticized for its black box models, this kind of transparency is a huge, huge deal.
So, we get back to the big question. How is this thing so powerful and yet so ridiculously cheap to run? Well, the answer comes down to two really clever innovations in how it's built and how it's trained.
First up is something called a mixture of experts architecture, or MOE for short. Okay, so a traditional AI model is kind of like turning on every single light in a massive skyscraper just to find one room. It uses its entire network for every single task. So inefficient, right? Well, an MOE model is way smarter. It splits its network into specialized experts and only turns on the specific ones it needs for the task at hand, like just flipping the light switch in the room you're actually in. This saves a massive amount of energy and computing power.
And if you want to see the real-world impact of that, just look at this. It's staggering. DeepSeek's engineers said they needed only 2,000 GPUs to train their V3 model. For comparison, Meta was training its Llama 4 model on a cluster with over 100,000 GPUs. The difference in resources is just mind-blowing. The second part of the secret sauce is reinforcement learning. So instead of just being spoon-fed a bunch of examples, the model actually learns through trial and error. It gets rewarded for getting things right, which lets it discover the most efficient ways to solve problems all on its own. It's this smart training method that teaches the super efficient MOE architecture how to pick the best experts for any job. It's genius. So, you might look at all this and think, DeepSeek R1 just appeared out of thin air, like some kind of fully formed masterpiece. But that's not what happened at all. This success is actually the result of an incredibly fast and focused evolution.
Just look at this timeline. You can see how quickly they built on their own work, one step at a time. They started with V1. Then, just a few months later, boom, V2 introduces that efficient mixture of experts architecture. Then V3 adds the smart reinforcement learning training. Then came R10, their first real reasoning model, which led right to today's DeepSeek R1. Each model was a stepping stone, building and refining the tech at a blistering pace.
All right, so a faster, cheaper, more transparent AI is here. What does this actually mean for all of us and, for the future of AI itself? Let's zoom out a little, look at the key takeaways from all this.
So what's the bottom line here? Well, DeepSeek has basically proven that it's possible to get top-tier performance without a colossal, nation-sized budget. They've built a model that's not just powerful, but also transparent, which is amazing.
And maybe most importantly, they are challenging this long-held belief in AI that bigger is always better. And this isn't just some academic debate. This could totally democratize AI development. Cheaper, more efficient models means smaller teams can actually compete with the giants, which could lead to an explosion of innovation.
And that leaves us with this really fascinating question for the whole industry. As we move forward, is the race going to be won by the folks who can build the most massive, expensive models? Or is it going to be won by those who, like DeepSeek, find more efficient, more elegant, and just plain smarter ways to think? The answer is still being written, and it's going to be exciting to watch.